Rise and shine, internet, because I would like to share a small sob story, kind of, but hear me out. Basically, I've made my fair share of pretty stupid purchases in the past, or just stuff that like was not really necessary to buy. Like this one time, I bought a camera stabilizer for 35 bucks, which I've used it to this day exactly twice. Or like the tons of earbuds that I got that all like I only used a couple times because the quality on them was trash. So I'm not a stranger to making irresponsible purchases like that. But this one kind of takes the cake, and not even because it's a bad product, but just because I could have gotten a better thing if I did a little more research and if I had better timing. So basically, let's rewind to April 2021, where I decided to buy a DualSense controller. For those unfamiliar, that's a PS5 controller. And at the time, it was only available in white. And the thing is, all the peripherals on my desk are black, right? My keyboard, mouse, speakers, headphones, monitor, everything's black. So I was a little put off from buying it at first because it wouldn't match the rest of my setup. But I figured, oh, you know what? It's gonna take them like 2 years to make another color anyway, because with the PS4, it took them like 2 years to make a different color for the DualShocks. So I figured, let's just pull the trigger and buy this thing. And lo and behold, literally like a month after I bought this controller, they announced two new colors for it. One of them being black. So literally, if I waited like 1 month more, I would have been able to get the thing that I wanted. Like, you guys couldn't have announced this earlier, or at the very least announced it 2 years later, like you did with the DualShock, so that I don't feel bad about buying a white one, because it would have been like 2 years later anyway for them to make a new color. It's like really, really dumb. And you might think that's a small inconvenience, which it is, but the regret doesn't stop there. So I bought this controller for two reasons. First of all, I just wanted to have a controller for my computer in general, because the one that I had before that was pretty trash. And I also wanted to have a second controller in case I ever got a PS5 because it's just a nice thing to have in general. And also, I wanted to play some games on the Windows version of PS Now. And I figured PS Now, it's Sony's own software, right? So it makes sense for them to support their own latest controller, right? Well, I was wrong about that because for some whatever godforsaken reason, to this day, PS Now on Windows does not support the PS5 controller. I don't know why. I don't know why that hasn't been added already as like a native feature because I had to use third-party software to make it work. Like, I'm not sure why Sony isn't supporting their own latest product, their own latest controller. Um, so that still like really baffles me. But that's basically what happened. So I bought this controller, like I hooked it up, and it's not working properly. So then I go on their wiki, and it's like, oh yeah, we only support the DualShock 4, even though the PS5 had already been out for like a year at that point. Like, I get that Sony treats PS Now on Windows like a side product, and they don't even really do much to it other than changing the catalog occasionally. But like, come on, guys, this is such a basic thing that you should add support for. Imagine if like Apple, before discontinuing the iPod, did not let it get any iOS version beyond 6. That's comparable to what this is. Just like if it has all the same latest hardware, but it's using iOS 6. It's the same thing here. And as for having it as a second PS5 controller, well, guys, I don't have a PS5 to this day. First of all, because there's still kind of a shortage of them. And that's actually the reason why I got a PS4 because they were actually available. Like, I walked into Walmart and saw one for 300 bucks, and there was quite a few games that I wanted to play on it, so I decided to cop it because that was a good deal. Um, but yeah, the PS5 is still, like, for all intents and purposes, a pretty rare product. To this day, the only time I've ever personally seen a PS5 was when I was at a party and the host had one next to his monitor. That's it. And also, like, I saw a display model at Best Buy, but that doesn't really count. And I'm not really that desperate to get a PS5 right now because to this day, there's only really like 3 PS5 exclusives. And when I say exclusives, I mean games that are only available on the PS5 and nowhere else. And that's Returnal, the Demon Souls remake, and the new Ratchet and Clank. And the only one that I'm really interested in from all of those is Returnal. But I'm not really like willing to spend $500 or even more, God forbid, from a scalper just to play a single game. So like in terms of content, I'm basically perfectly content with the PS4 right now. The one upside I'll give it is that it's a pretty good PC controller and it does support adaptive triggers in certain games. But I mean, honestly, adaptive triggers are kind of a gimmick, and it's fun for like the first 2 minutes, but then after that, it's just like, okay, cool. And with that being said, like, I could have just as easily saved $10 and bought a DualShock 4 because then I'd be able to use PS Now without any extra software. I'd have a second controller for my PS4. I could have gotten it in black because that color was actually available for it at the time. And, it would have been basically the same experience minus those adaptive triggers that aren't even really that necessary. Don't get me wrong, I can still get a PS5 sometime in the future and have a use for this controller as a second one, but like for the time being, it was kind of a waste of money. And you know, if I bought a DualShock, I would have been better off. And that ends my mini rant, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did enjoy it, please do consider hitting that like and subscribe button. As always, this is your captain speaking. Peace out.